Hello, everybody, and welcome to Reviews from Hell. I am your host, AJ, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Steve Wandling, and tonight we got a special guest with us, Richard Newby. And Richard, why don't you go ahead and tell people about yourself and introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Hey, thank you guys for having me. So I am a writer for the Hollywood Reporter and Fangoria mostly. I cover a bunch of comic book stuff and horror stuff, and then I also contribute occasionally to Inverse and AV Club and Vulture. But THR and Fangoria are kind of my main bases there. Long time, horror fan. Constantly talking about. Even if I'm not talking about horror stuff on Twitter, I'm talking about comic book stuff. So those are, basically my wheelhouse. But I'm excited to be on the show.
Yeah, and I did see your take on the Sue thing from Nope about why it would never fall, and I really enjoyed that piece that you did on that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was a great movie. I really enjoyed that for sure.
Wow. I mean, that's a whole nother,
Yeah, that's like three podcast episodes we could do on that.
I listened to somebody else today the Final Girls podcast through Arrow put out an episode on Nope today. And I was just listening to that earlier. It was good stuff on there. Good stuff. Yeah, that movie was incredible too. I feel like I was just thinking this the other day as genre fans kind of, hashtag blessed, I guess. I mean, it's I just the other day I rolled over in bed and just I put on a new Predator film that's arguably better than Predator itself.
For sure.
And on at least a lot of different levels. But I did that, and it's like you can go to Peacock without leaving my room. I could see a new queer horror film from John Logan, with they/them. It was just, and then Bodies is in theaters. I just felt like I was a little hard to complain. I do.
Right, it's almost like being at a candy store right now, right?
Yeah. We're living in a golden age. Like I was just like looking at the release calendar for this fall. I mean, like we've got Beast coming out this week and Orphan First Kill.
Yes.
Which I already saw that. I got to review that, and man, that's a really well done prequel as well.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. The Invitation, Barbarian, so much stuff.
And the menu too. The menu looks cool.
Yeah.
Beast is going to be crazy though. Got to see that on a big screen, right? That has to be seen biggest screen imaginable.
Oh yeah, I'm going to see that.
Yeah, it's playing in Dolby Cinema here as well, so I'm very excited to watch it in that format.
Yeah, it's just that's one of those things. It's like Idris Elba, Sean Copley fighting a lion. You really do just 3 sentences, and you should go to the theater for that.
Yeah,
it should be easy sell. But yeah, what are we here for specifically, AJ? There's a movie.
And tonight we are going to be reviewing the new horror movie Glorious with Ryan Kwanten and J.K. Simmons. And guys, what did you think of this? Because I absolutely loved it. Like, I think as far as H.P. Lovecraftian films go, especially on Shudder right now, this is top tier stuff that they got.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, speaking of being lucky, where would horror be without Shudder right now? I mean, just as a genre, I feel like, everybody wants to throw words around like the horror phrases, horror community, whatever. And I just remember when I first got Shudder was very early on, and it just and that was also like 2016. I feel like maybe even earlier than that when, I was probably still watching apps on a laptop even. I don't even know. But anyway, it was very early on, and now I just feel like that there has been around that and the relaunch of Fangoria, like a whole kind of thing grow up, and we are lucky to have these kind of. And that's the last thing I'll talk about, how lucky I feel as a genre fan, because I keep bringing that up, but I do. But like specifically with Shudder, as someone that can watch horror all day and all night, like it's just I had trouble finding like From Beyond when I was growing up for years, like just one movie. Like I know people that didn't see Near Dark for, decades trying to find it.
I was one of those people. Like Near Dark was almost impossible to find unless you spent like $75 on a DVD.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I always lucked out. I was in probably like high school, and I drove an hour away to work at this. It sounds really lame in middle America, but it is. But I drove an hour away to work at a Hot Topic where all these older people, cool people worked. And they like took me under their wing. And so this guy gave me this really cheapy DVD of Near Dark. It was probably like it is just like a bare bones disc. And I kept that somehow through like all my moves. And that was just a movie I would spin constantly. And so I never even thought of it till later as just being out of print. Like I came across so many people that had been like, oh, you actually have a copy of that in your home? Like I've wanted to see that forever. But it was just, I can think of so many movies. But now it's a totally new world out there. It's just, totally different situation. And with that, you get stuff like, Rebecca McKendry's Glorious, which it's like, how do you describe that? It's like I was trying to think like, it's like there's like this line, like I watched a lot of movies, like my dad, like your dad, I know AJ watches a lot of stuff, both my parents do. And it's just like, but there's like this line, like the horror stuff was always like for me alone. I always feel like, and so it's like, oh, what are you watching? And then they'll be like, oh, we watched Better Call Saul last night. What'd you watch? And I was like, well, I watched a movie where this like Lovecraftian god like was talking to this other guy who was having a crisis, like in a glory hole in a roadstop filthy bathroom. And they're like, wait, what? That's the movie. It's like that's where it is.
And like it's not even a European film. Like this is a straight American film.
All American. This is American as apple pie. Yeah, everything about it. So yeah, it's but I know if somebody wanted to start, I in general, what do I think about it? I think that it's really cool. And like I said, I listen to Rebecca McKendry a lot. It's somebody that like we were talking about either before we started or after we started with Shockwaves and Colors of the Dark. I just really love their work as a podcast host. And they do. And another thing too, those screenings, like getting to go to like a USC screening online, like for my, that was just like something I wouldn't be able to do that. Getting to see someone like that I listened to his film and it kind of fire on all cylinders like this, is awesome. I mean, it's really funny. I mean, it does really, what I feel about it, okay, specifically for it to be so contained, like I was really impressed with just like kind of the scope of everything while it's still contained. Like it doesn't, like you could have this idea and it could be trauma-y or, it could be, schlocky. And this wasn't.
It could almost be like low-hanging fruit almost in a way.
Yeah, like you could have this idea and I'm sure we have and will, and it'd be fun, like something like that where, and I wasn't sure what to expect because I listened to her and then I kind of hear that idea, and so it could have gone in a different way with that. But when I was watching it, especially the second time, was just, there's a lot of little really good humor in there. And it just goes to show like, I was watching the Jamie Foxx movie, which I thought the concept for that, like high concept, it was a blast. And you got these different movies, kind of Chad Stahelski kind of, vampirism, John Wick style stuff, high concept and could be a really fun world to play in. But I just thought like everything about it was kind of really tired. Like there was like, it seemed like everything was thrown into it except any thought on the actual kind of screenplay and how these characters would talk to each other. And that I believe Jamie Foxx and in his situation with like his daughter very much and that kind of thing. And I think, and I kind of saw that right around when I watched Glorious again. And so I thought like, it's just such a difference in writing, like when you get this good writing with something like this to where, you really do go on this whole journey with this guy, like kind of, emotionally, like it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a journey through the mind with this guy almost, that you're just kind of strapped in for. And I think that when the way this is written, which I think Dave McKendry at least co-wrote it, it just really brings it up to something more artful, than just, it's about a glory hole and an alien, but I still snicker like so I'm not helping my case, but
Right. So, and I texted both of you guys the picture. I looked up like color meanings and stuff like that because I don't think that's like not unintentional for the movie like this with J.K. Simmons' demigod character trying to get Vince West to trust him and follow his instructions the whole time. Like that has to be kind of intentional how you see the colors throughout Glorious as well.
Yeah, and just you've got I think about that kind of purple color too, that kind of and I can't, I think of Color Out of Space, and just how I think of like
yeah,
unnatural kind of color that you just wouldn't see existing on its own.
Yeah, and I was also a big fan of the movie. I also I've been listening to Rebecca on Shockwaves and Colors of the Dark for a long time, and it's just like really cool to like recognize her voice through the writing. Just like having listened so long, just like you can just like tell like certain moments, like, oh yeah, this is like so clearly like in her voice and in her style, and that was like really awesome to recognize. I'm also just like a big fan of like goopy movies. Like I love like Brian Usna kind of stuff.
Society.
I love like Stuart Gordon. Like I love like a wet, like goopy kind of creature thing, and I feel like there's so much of that in this movie. And yet like it doesn't feel like exploitation, which I feel like this could easily go, given the concept. Originally hearing the kind of log line, I was expecting something more like Butt Boy or like Bad Milo or something like that. But like I was actually, a little bit surprised at like how,
or even
like,
something like Castle Freak, almost a little bit.
Yeah, I was, a little bit surprised at like how like emotional the movie was. Like I feel like there's something like really deeply human. Like it's disturbing for sure, and there's also like a lot of funny moments, but there's also like something that's so uniquely human in the writing and the performance that really kind of caught me off guard. There is a certain kind of unexpected beauty in it, which you wouldn't expect given the log line going in.
No, I totally. That's in the you're absolutely right with it having this humanity to it. It's like if you and that it just shows like this whole it puts this whole different kind of element to it. Like if it was just a kind of schlocky thing, we wouldn't care as much as we do, and don't want to give anything away, but the guy that we are following through, like, it's no secret that he is like a deeply kind of flawed guy, and I mean, we meet him at this very like, low point. And regardless of anything else about him, we feel for this guy, we relate to him. We want him to get out of there. But at the same time, you just keep getting drawn in more. And it also has that thing where this could be like a really cool stage play. I was thinking at the same time, when I think of like Alien the play, you can think of some really creative together and putting some kind of version of this on. I can't win. And J.K. Simmons, Academy Award winning J.K. Simmons. I mean, my God, man. I mean,
like incredible, he has so much
voice
like,
acting.
Right. I mean, it's insane. When I think about all the footage of him as Commissioner Gordon, it's like, it keeps getting cut out and excised and reused as various films. It just feels odd to me. It doesn't feel. It feels weird.
He's one of my favorites. Like I'll watch him in pretty much anything. And it's just like such a cool performance because I mean, like you don't actually see him on screen. You just hear him, and yet like what he's doing in terms of like inflection, in terms of like ratcheting up the tension, in terms of like these surprising moments of humor. I mean, it's just like a really polished vocal performance.
And like him talking about the feces on the toilet and listing like the names of the guys and like alphabetical or chronologically, like which one would you rather prefer? Like that was really darkly comedic too. Like his voice has so much range in it. Like you know, this guy was the same voice that was doing the yellow M&Ms that you see all the time in the movie theaters before movies start playing, right? Like this guy. Like, it's so incredible. I would really like to know that pitch meeting that the director of Glorious had with J.K. Simmons, just like explaining his character and what all he would be doing. And not only that, the A&R meetings or recordings that he did, those had to be really fun to witness as well.
Yeah, I'm really curious if if, you know, when Ryan was performing, if he was actually like listening to J.K. Simmons' performance, you know, on set, or if someone was, you know, reading just the lines from the script, because like there's such a
It's like a
unique, I feel.
conversation.
Yeah, like it's so like balanced and like
It's
you really
fluid.
feel the emotion. Yeah.
No, it's if I tried to make something like that, it would be like, oh, these two, you immediately, it'd be terrible. It'd be like, oh, these guys were not in the same time zone in the same week filming this. But no, yeah, that it does feel fluid, and it also gives me more, you know, gives me more appreciation for Ryan because, you know, I as a guy that was embarrassingly true to the end. You know, I know him in a certain way, and this was not that. And I always enjoyed seeing him as Jason Stackhouse. I thought he was funny and affable and kind of, you know, dopey. And he was kind of played up for like either being hot or being dumb. And so it was kind of, you know, so this was a totally, and if we don't know how they did that either way to make it feel so fluid. And it is a very physical performance. He's in his underwear for about 90% of the time, covered in filth, but, you know, and it's a very good performance. Like it's just, and I did think about how much like, and it's just, these are people that are obviously very good at what they do, but love making the film. And it definitely comes through in that. I think it all goes back to that. Like, it's such just like, there's just a passion behind all that, you know. It's like you don't get to see him do that on an HBO show that those shows go for so long. I think most of those shows are designed to go for about half as long as they end up going, you know, if they're successful. So, you know, it has to, you know, not that many. As a working actor, I would just wonder how many times it's, you know, you get to do something that I imagine was a cool experience. I don't know. Maybe it was terrible. Maybe it was like the worst weeks of his life, but I don't think so. You know, it doesn't come off that way. So it comes off.
I thought it was Ryan Kwanten's, you know, best performance. And like, I mean, like you said, like he's always been a fun actor. You know, I've seen him in other things, but I feel like this kind of like elevated him in my mind a little bit. Like it showed that he's capable of like, you know, these more complex, like emotionally involving roles. And so like it also just like kind of like made me excited about like what he's gonna do next. Like I hope that this like you know is a major kind of like launch for him to do some other cool stuff, because I think that he's really got, you know, some interesting facets to his skills there.
I like this whole new weathered thing, okay, because as now I am getting older and more weathered myself, like I love a good Nick Stahl showing up or a good Devin Sawa showing up. You've got this club of all these guys I know that they're looking awesome and doing their thing, who have a certain kind of like weatheredness to them. It's always, I never would have thought back in the day that I would have thought of like Ethan Embry as this sign of like modern masculinity. I see the Devil's Candy and I'm like, that's where I want to be. That's what I'm trying to give all to people, to strangers. No. Yeah, I would definitely put that in there with him. You know, he's not the hot little sheriff's deputy anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just I can't recommend it enough. Like, I wish I could get people that would hear the tagline. A lot of times when I see something like this, you know, there's and inevitably people that are turned off by genre in general. And, you know, some people may not, you know, get past that log line, who would probably have, a really good time with it and be like, hey, you know, that was not as horrific as I was expecting. Which there is a part near the end, which no spoilers or anything, but I was kind of like, they did right up to a line. But I would definitely like to see as many people watch this as possible. That's I'd love to see it on a big screen though too. I've only seen it on my laptop, so even seeing it on my TV at home will be a treat when Shudder throws it up, because I'll it'd be all new all again.
Yeah, it feels like one of those movies that's like just kind of like perfectly designed for like a a horror movie marathon at like a theater, like some kind of like a midnight, run of films. It has that vibe that I thought was really cool. Yeah.
Any of this kind of like cosmic based, I'm there for, like Mandy or anything like that.
Color of Outer Space would be the other one, of course.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, there's all the Void from the past few years. There's been a lot of that stuff, and I'm a sucker for it. I'm there. I want Panos Cosmatos to put a new movie out. I don't know.
Oh, me too. I've been waiting. I'm waiting for the announcement.
Yeah, I'm waiting on
That's
that
what I
one
was
too,
gonna say.
'cause
I don't even
Picture
know
was so damn good.
Yeah.
And Beyond the Black Rainbow was so cool too. Like I really drawn to these kind of like cosmic horror films.
Yeah.
And like the thing is that like I think it's so interesting that now we're seeing a lot of filmmakers who can kind of do this on a smaller budget or like a more like contained space, and it still feels grand and epic and
Yeah.
terrifying. Like as much as I do want to see a Del Toro At the Mountains of Madness, $200 million movie, I also like appreciate that we can see these filmmakers do it for like a fourth of that, at least.
Sure. Yeah.
And still make it, so involving and just like the cosmic horror of it all. Yeah.
You really feel that vastness of like that terrifying space feeling. And it's cool to see. I'm totally with you on that. Like the idea of more filmmaker, because that what you just said, like the contained space with just like, but it's hinting at this bigger thing that it manages to capture. Like that to me kind of nails Lovecraft. At least when I was reading his short stories as a kid, that's kind of what was the whole thing. Like that's the vibe, that's the feel. And so when it gets pulled off at that smaller budget, it is the kind of, I think you said it earlier on Twitter, it's the kind of movie that made you want to make stuff. And it is that kind of movie that's like, oh, I got to get my friends together. I got to, it's inspiring stuff. It's great. It's kind of like One Cut of the Dead, like a movie that I watch. It just makes me want to like see what all my old friends are up to and just, grab a camera.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that gets me out of bed.
Right. And like I think even the smaller budget, kind of helps these content creators come up with an idea like this that has to be kind of intimate, but yet, like you guys said, it also hints at a bigger universe. If like it turns into a franchise or whatever, they have that freedom in a next movie on the next movie that they end up making, to where they can probably get a lot more from the profit of this movie and then just add it to their next feature as well,
Yeah. And that's cool too. Cause like Nick Hendry has done, some Lifetime films, and there was a holiday anthology that she did a couple years ago. And so it's like cool to see like that growth as a filmmaker too. Like this is still a small budget, but it still feels bigger than what's come before. And I feel like it's one of those movies that like can open up, a lot of doors in terms of like seeing, what else she can do in horror. And like that's going back to like Shudder for a moment. Like that's one of the things that I love about Shudder is that I feel like it gives so many filmmakers an opportunity to tell their story and then get it out there. Like I'm thinking about Scare Me, from a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was really cool.
And, like, we got Werewolves Within last year, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And so like I love that, like I feel like this platform is just like so like inclusive, and like there's such like a like diverse like lens of horror stuff that they offer, and like it's so cool to just like see like filmmakers kind of evolve through the platform. And I feel like that's something that like a lot of other streamers don't have, where like it feels like it's very filmmaker focused, and it's like encouraging filmmakers to kind of go bigger and put their craziest ideas out there. And so like the fact that we're like lucky enough to be able to see this and experience it on Shudder, I think it's just like a really cool thing.
And I remember like when Shudder first started out, right? Like they even had like their own podcast when they first started out. And just to see them evolve like this into this powerhouse of horror is really cool, because like a few years ago, I even thought they were almost like the Lifetime of horror movies, because at one point they were just like, trying to find their niche, trying to find their audience, it seemed like. But now they've evolved, and now it's just so cool to see them put out movies after movies that really helps people get started in this. Like, we just saw Spider-1 release his first kind of big movie through Shudder as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, but I think with Ken, I'm bouncing off that idea with filmmaker curated content, like in people that love films and that are into the process and things like that, and just want to celebrate new indie horror in terms of something like Netflix, where you get the feeling that the people that run it, a lot of, not all of them, but some people, that was unfair, I guess, but you do get that. Okay, I'll rephrase. I used to work for FYE, and when I first started working there, I was young. I was all excited to talk to people about music, and my manager, like the first day, was like, "Hey man, nobody here gives a shit about music and is not going to be able to talk about any of this stuff." And he said to me, I never forgot it. He said, "These guys at FYE," he said, "they might as well be selling widgets, and they might as well be selling toilet brushes, and they're just not music people like that." And Shudder or Arrow, Criterion, Night Flight, something like that, these smaller ones, you get like, that's the really good streaming kind of where I find like something like the art house lives on, or like the indie circuit kind of lives on in a way, and in a lot of ways reaches a lot of people that it never could have in the past, where it was just in like micro cinemas and art house theaters. But yeah, you get something like that at Shudder, where you do get filmmakers that you can kind of watch, like, go from short film to a smaller budgeted contained thing to large, just kind of watch them grow too as filmmakers, which is awesome to do as fans too. So it's just getting some like police siren in the background.
It's outside my window. I
was like, it's me. I literally live in the middle of nowhere. They would have to be coming here. I was like, okay, but yeah. But Shudder is just, I totally think that is what separates a lot of the, I guess, are they smaller? Yes, they're smaller. It's the smaller streaming services and the more curated ones, is they feel like they're run by people who actually care about, film and are in the film business. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right. As long as we don't get another Zaslav or whatever that guy's name is, I think we're good.
I agree. Yeah.
I don't know what that's all about. I just thought that was awful. I can't get behind. It's weirder to me. You brought it up, but it's weirder to me than anything to see the same guys that I was positive were, they were so gung-ho, restore the Snyder thing because of artistic integrity and blah, blah, blah. And they are cackling at the fact that this movie that they apparently didn't want to see is not getting released, instead of just not, going to see it, something you didn't want to see. But yeah, so that kind of,
it's a mess out there. That's why,
it's a total mess.
As much as I love, comic books and comic book movies, I always feel like horror is like my like safe, retreat.
Right.
I feel, I feel like the people there, and I mean, of course, like every like group of people, there's like assholes or whatever, but like horror, like I feel like on the overall, I feel is much more positive and celebratory, and we want to see things actually released and succeed.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. I've never. It's wild. It is wild out there. But horror, like glorious, is much better to champion than like arguing, Pepsi or Coke all day long with people. So I see that on Twitter. That's what I feel like with Disney or DC. You're just, Pepsi or Coke, man. What's your favorite? Well, fuck you, buddy. I like Coke better. It's like, all right, man. Yeah. So.
All right, guys. So, final thoughts on Glorious. What do you rate the film out of, I guess, 5 stars? What would you give it?
Me? I will go high rating that I can give it. Give it an A+. Give it a 5.666 skulls up, whatever you want to say. Like 3 flaming pumpkin heads or something. No, it's awesome, and everybody should check it out as soon as you can, as many times as you can. Yeah.
Yeah, I give it like a 4. I mean, it's really good. Like I don't have any real complaints. Just like on my like rating scale or whatever. Like
right.
It's like a ceiling at some point. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but I definitely recommend like everyone who's into horror watch it. I feel like it's definitely one of those films that like as we get into like the Halloween season, which for most of us is like already started. Like, oh, this is
We're like,
the start. But yeah, I feel like it's gonna play really well. Especially this time of year. It's just like so creative, and like I said on Twitter earlier, like it makes you really want to like go out there and like create something, because you can just like see all the passion and work that went into this, like without it being like blown way out of, like it feels tangible in a way that like you can believe that people actually made this rather than like a corporation. And I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate about it. Yeah,
something to say.
And I'd be around the same. I think I'd give it rather a 4 or a 4.5. It's very solid, and it's a great H.P. Lovecraftian tale that a lot of people should enjoy if you have Shudder, especially because they have a lot of great content out there like Mandy and Color Out of Space that just aligns with this kind of filmmaking. So yeah, I would highly recommend checking it out when it comes out.
Oh yeah, for sure. And subscribe to Shudder anyway. They usually have some kind of deal going on to where you can get a trial too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, like I already see like try Shudder 30 or something for like 30 days. Yeah.
They're reasonable people over there. They are.
Yeah.
This is fun, guys.
Yeah,
Richard, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
It's been really fun.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I run a collection of short horror stories. We Make Monsters here. It's on my Twitter profile, which is at Richard L. Newby. So if any listeners are interested in that, that just shows some of my fiction writing.
That's awesome.
And then, my horror writing, you can find at THR and Fangoria in the magazine. So
I just got my new Fango the other day, actually, with the Weekend on the cover. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's a good issue.
I know. I can't wait to dive in. Do it now, actually.
Yeah, I need to start subscribing to the Fangoria magazine because it's awesome, as always.
Yeah.
It is, for sure. Do it.
All right, guys. Well, have a good night.